Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Tech Informist, episode 24, recorded on January 26, 2015. Tech Informist is a show intended to help inform and educate listeners, such as you, about the world of technology with interviews with guests from the tech industry, along with lively and entertaining commentary about the latest tech news. Since today we're not doing a guest, I would like to introduce my good friend and co-host, JJ Hammond. JJ, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, sir. How are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. Rough start Monday, but hey, we're here, we're talking. It's the Tech Informist. So people
Yes.
can get involved with the Tech Informist on Twitter at Tech Informist, also on Facebook, Google Plus, and Instagram. Just search for either Tech Informist or the Tech Informist, and I'm sure you can find us pretty much anywhere. Also visit www.thetechinformist.com/live to watch and also join in the live chat and also to see when the upcoming episodes are scheduled. Also, I would like to welcome everybody that is currently in the chat room. I see Vernon Niels there. We have a couple other viewers. Welcome to all of you. Excuse me. And now it's time to move into the news of the day. JJ, would you like to start off and talk about what you've got listed here to kick the show off?
Awesome. So with this, I guess we always go in the order in which our stories appear on the show notes. I suggest everybody go to the techinformist.com to catch up with all of our past shows and click on the relevant links. Okay. So what's really interesting to me is that we're all embracing the future, which is the internet and services and all this other kind of stuff on the internet, all that kind of stuff. Healthcare.gov, for whatever you listeners have to think about that. In the United States, this is going to be the law of the land going forward until somebody changes it or whatever. But for the most part, future integrations of healthcare services are going to be online, whether it's healthcare.gov or if it's your current provider that you're dealing with. So reading a story from Engadget. Now this story was posted on the 21st, so last week, and it has since changed, and I'll tell you why. So here's what was happening. There was an issue with healthcare.gov here in the United States where people had a hard time logging in, and then once they logged in to get to the necessary services to find healthcare coverage. There was an issue that was reported by the Associated Press, the AP, that has revealed that healthcare.gov, the government's affordable care portal, like the sign-in, shares some of your personal data with the whole raft of marketing agencies. Now, if you're like me, you like your privacy, the action has been independently verified by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which has found that a person's location, annual income, and smoking habits are all being freely distributed to these marketing foundations. The foundation has also discovered, or to these organizations, the foundation has also discovered that enabling Do Not Track does not protect users against their surveillance, since the data is being shared via the site's referrer header. So when you look at the URL link at the top, you see a whole bunch of stuff that happens after HTTPS :// something else, and inside there it says age equals your age, and smoker, true or false, which means 1 or 0. So if you're a smoker, that means 1. Are you a parent? Are you pregnant? Are you where your zip code is? What your income is? It literally says income equals 35,000.
Right.
Creepy stuff. Now, before each one of these parameters, it has an ampersand, which is the and symbol. That means it's sending it off to basically an array of characters, and it's sending it off to a database somewhere. Now, this can be tracked, and this is mad crazy, right? So it is shown here that a 40-year-old person, adult living in Arizona, that is a smoker with an average age of 35,000 is readily available for anybody to see. So according to the AP, the White House has already responded to these complaints, saying that the data sharing was intended to improve the customer experience for the site. It added that firms weren't able to collect the data to further their own business interests. Okay, who is not going to do that if you're a marketer?
Exactly.
given last night's State of the Union coverage, and this was again this story was posted. I'm reading from it, covered by a presidential pledge to protect the data of the U.S. citizens. It looks as if President Obama has some work to do in his own backyard. Now, since this story broke, the White House has come out and said that they will change this practice, but I don't think that it's changed quite yet. So just be, go into this with eyes open. You're sharing some, if not quite a bit, of your personal information right now when you sign up for this stuff. Now, this is going to be a big deal for a lot of people. So I would suggest, when you're doing this stuff is like, this is going to follow me around a little bit, so I got to make sure that not only am I being truthful, but I know what's going on. You know what I mean?
So just from my naive eyes, I'm looking at this and I don't see anything related to a person's name or address. I mean, I see just general standard information. Is that something that, people need to be concerned, like it's their own personal identification, hey, my name and things like that? Is any of that information getting shared?
When you combine when you combine the source. All right, so if you're looking at this, if you're looking at this story, you can see there's several different parameters in this, like the URL address.
Yeah, I'm looking at the URL now from
the
Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Yeah, so one of the parameters in here that it's not showing could technically be what the source ID number is for tracking your internet activity, right? So, in having said that, if you're a Google user, for example, Google is totally okay. They gave you a particular number, and that number is associated with you. So it's not that hard for a parsing parameter program to figure out you based off of this information.
Right. Okay. With all by being able to track by IP address and
right.
with your internet
right.
provider,
right.
for example, we use Charter.
Right.
So obviously that's going to have its own unique identifier.
Right.
And there's
okay. Right. So it's going to drill down, and it's not that they necessarily have to do a whole bunch of work to find out that it's you. It'll be very easy for their parsing program to figure out. So this is not good.
No, it's definitely something gonna have to keep up with.
I wanted to raise this as not a call to action that's going to make people freak out. I just wanted to raise this because this was a very good story. So thank you, Daniel Cooper from Engadget. You did a great job.
Yeah, it was a good story to share. I do appreciate that. That's very interesting. Actually.
Yeah, I really want to talk about that Verizon story, but we can do that later. All right. So next story up, if I'm looking at this right, is my internet browsers. Browsers are important. Just ask Google and Microsoft. So Mary Jo Foley, friend of the show, been on, huge fans. We love her for her coverage of the enterprise. So it's really interesting to see that Spartan, the browser that was released last week, is going to be, well, that's the code name, Spartan browser. What's under the hood? So she digs deeper. Now, I say this a lot in the show, and I mean it. I love Honey Badger, right? I love going deep into a story and figuring out, the truth behind it. So what we do here is we read this stuff and we give this to you guys so that you don't have to take out the time to do that because you live busy lives. So when we, drill into this, it's really interesting to see that the inclusion of IE alongside Spartan is a nod to enterprise customers who have legacy sites that use older technologies designed for IE, such as ActiveX. Good Lord, that thing will never die. And browser helper objects. There is no explanation in today's situation in which the version of Windows 10 will include the ability to run IE. They presume, or she presumes, that it is only those which include a desktop, so not the Windows 10 mobile variants that will run on Windows Phone and under 8-inch tablets. There's also no mention as to whether the IE on Windows 10 will have to download it or whether it will be preloaded with certain Windows 10 SKUs. So what we do know is the new rendering engine is a fork of the Trident rendering engine, which is so if it's Edge HTML.dll, so it's a DIL a program, is a new component that separates the Trident. The new engine began as a fork of Trident, but has since diverged rapidly over the past many months, similar to how several other browser engines have started to fork prior to diverging. The new rendering engine is also built with a very different set of principles than Trident, for example, a focus on interoperability and the removal of document modes. So we're seeing this ability of it puts it on par with Chrome. Essentially, that's what Microsoft wants to do. Microsoft wants to make something that's not Internet Explorer that can be updated without an update to the operating system. So Spartan codename right now will be delivered via the Windows Store, which is on Windows 8.1 and Windows 8.1 for phones now. And with the release of Windows 10, there's going to be a store where they're able to update their applications, and one of these applications is going to be the IE replacement browser, which is going to show up on mobile SKUs and things of that nature, and on devices underneath the 8-inch threshold, so it's going to get the Windows mobile experience. And this is going to be the main computing way that people consume the internet going forward, because it allows for Internet Explorer to be faster, more secure, get better updates quicker, and then they still have a legacy mode, and that's going to be the newest version of IE. So they're not getting ready to Internet Explorer altogether, but it is something that they're going to be, using their own version of a rendering to knock out the same goal. So I looked at benchmarks, and it looks good. It looks promising. It does not look like this is going to be a problem for Microsoft to roll out Spartan. We saw this last week. People can write on there. People can mark it up. It's very cool, touch-friendly. It's nice, clean user interface. It looks a lot like Chrome and Firefox. So I think a lot of people are going to like this. So with this browser, I'm going to go ahead and hop into what it's going to be called. So a lot of people are...
Just real quick before you do that, though. Now, am I correct in saying that I recently read, and it might have been from Paul Thurrott, actually from Thurrott.com, that he mentioned that some of these new rendering engines may be in the most recent 99.26 Windows 10 Tech Preview build? I mean, not as a full-fledged browser itself, but some of the underlying code with that is available?
Yeah, so the foundation is there.
Okay.
That's what you're alluding to, I would assume. The foundation is there. You can't...
I want to say you could enable it within Chrome or something like that. That's how closely associated to Chrome that it is.
I don't think it's Chrome, but I do know that Windows Central did do an article about how you can enable it at your own risk to run in a browser. So
okay. That's what I was referring to. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what. So I'm gonna, in keeping with Internet Explorer and the Microsoft story, I'm gonna go into the next one, which is the name of this new thing. Now, many of you who were given a PC as a kid, or grew up with Internet Explorer, or work with it as your daily thing on, while you're at work, and that. A lot of you are saying, "God, I hate Internet Explorer," but some of you guys like that stuff, and gals, some of them like that stuff. I once saw a drawing of the head of the Internet Explorer symbol on the devil's body on a developer whiteboard, which was hilarious. So the name is what they're looking for. Right now, you got the Internet Explorer with the E, that's there. On the Windows 8, it's like there, and then on the desktop, like the shortcut icon is the E. So they're trying to keep it with an E, right? So some of the names are Edge, which the other names I don't like. So please don't do this, Mike. Please don't do this. Entourage, Alexa, or Alexia, I guess. Evo, don't do that because that's reminiscence of Android Evo stuff.
Yeah, HTC devices.
Yeah, Evex.
What?
God, don't do that at all. Endeavor, please, for the love of all that's holy, just do Edge. That's fine. That's fine. I'm sure there's another E name out there that I haven't thought of. Just do Edge. That's fine.
Yeah, the Edge browser. That doesn't sound too bad.
No, because it's new. It's like Edge, right? It's like edgy. It's something trendy that people can get behind. Whatever. So that's the name there. All right. So. We'd like to hear your thoughts in the chat room and on Twitter and on Facebook and on Google Plus and all those other different areas. What you would like it to be called? I'm curious. What do you think it should be called? I'd be interesting to see what our fans think the Internet Explorer should be. And if you think Spartan should be continue to be called Spartan, because to be honest with you guys, having seen 300, that is a cool name. I mean, frankly,
It's a powerful name.
it's a very powerful name. There's a lot of MMA fighters that live a Spartan lifestyle. There's so much associated with Spartan in general. That's just very kind of you can get behind, right? And you can feel like strong and empowered by it. We are Sparta, and then kick somebody into a pit of the abyss. So Google has been awesome lately in pointing out everybody else's mistakes. So Google leaves most Android users exposed to hackers. The only reason why I bring this up right now is because of the browser story that I'm talking about. So an executive from Google confirms that they have no plan to fix a security hole in the default browser for older versions of Android, which are relied on which 60% of Android users currently use. Now, CNET is where I got this story from, but it's not just exclusive to CNET because it's all over the place. But it's interesting to me that CNET. Okay, I don't know if our listeners know this story or not, but I'm just going to go through this real quick. CNET was told explicitly to stay away from Google. I want to say maybe a year or two ago or whatever, because CNET did an article on Google Schmidt about Google Schmidt using Google Search, and it made him mad. And he told his employees not to speak to CNET because of privacy things. And it's just this whole gossipy thing, but it's kind of hilarious. It's like ironic, right? It's like he got mad because somebody did research on him using Google, search engines and stuff.
Right.
And then anyways. So people with Android smartphones and tablets running older versions of the operating system, around 60% of users.
Which is actually like ice cream sandwich and below. So
right.
People really using older devices.
Right.
That can't handle the newer OS updates.
Right. So keeping software up to date is one of the greatest challenges in security, they wrote, and because of the browser app is based on a version of WebKit browser engine that's no more than 2 years old, fixing the vulnerability in Android Jelly Bean and earlier versions is no longer practical to do safely because there's so many different variations, right, like skins on top of Android that they have to deal with. Google confirmed on Saturday, and this was 2 weeks ago, that Lugwa's post is the company's official position on the matter, which is we're not doing anything. So this is not a precedent that I want to see Google doing forward. There's a lot of Android users out there, and this is not something that's good for Android as a whole. Would you agree with that? I mean, what's your thoughts on this?
I would definitely agree because, not everybody can afford to get the newer and the latest and greatest devices. Sure, there's more affordable devices out there, but your overall mobile smartphone experience is not really that good. You've got the Moto G that will be getting Lollipop on it, but it launches with KitKat. That's a solid device that's relatively affordable for people that'll on a budget. I really wish they would still at least do a couple more updates, or at least say, okay, up to this date it's going to be cut off. But like with everything else, look at XP for example. Eventually you've got to tell people, come on, it's time to. It's 2015. You're using OSs that are 3-4 years old and on devices that are probably that old. It might be time to save up just a little bit and come up to speed to a point.
Right.
Even Apple doesn't keep pushing the new latest iOS updates to all older phones. I think you got to have a 4S to get iOS 8, and I wouldn't consider that a real experience.
Oh, Lord, no. So in our chat room, really cool. Edge is acceptable. Thank you, Vernon. By the way, hello, Tech Nils. Just wanted to say hello, guy or gal, whatever. I'm just looking through the chat room. It's gorgeous. I love seeing people in here. And so the other thing was Vernon threw this out there. Spartan could potentially be installed on other devices. I would take that one step further and say, what I think he means is other platforms. That would be kind of cool, dude. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool because Satya Nadella said we want to have a cross-platform strategy, and that would be pretty hot, right? Like if you were on Android and you knew that you could do, I mean, you can kind of sort of use Bing right now, but that's still kind of like just a forked version of Chrome. What
Yeah.
if you could have Spartan on there? That would be kind
Yeah.
of fun, right?
Yeah, it's a possibility.
That would be kind of cool. Not gonna lie. All right, so let's see where we are with stories, with the stories, with stories, with stories. Names of browser. Okay, so I'm up next. All right. So speaking of things that creep me out, Amazon Echo saves all your voice data. Here's how to delete it. Whether you like it or not, Amazon stores any voice commands you say to Echo. This is concerning to me because of a couple of things. I didn't know that this thing existed, so I apologize to our listeners. There's this thing called Amazon Echo, and apparently it's like a voice activation thing that's like Siri. Am I saying that right?
Yes, I mean it is basically just a cylinder. I mean that also acts as like a Bluetooth speaker. I do believe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do think it will act as a Bluetooth speaker. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, which oftentimes I can be. But yeah, it's a device that's always listening from Amazon, and it's really intended to help people easily order, products and things like that. And if you want to ask the weather, it's hey Echo or whatever the cue is for it to actually start listening, and it'll give you basic feedback and weather forecasts and sports scores, things like that.
Nice. Okay, so there is a way to delete this if you guys have this. Go to the app, go to settings, go to history, and then you'll see the request you've made setting up your Echo. To delete the recording, tape it, then tap delete, or tap it, then, to delete a recording, tap it, then tap delete, voice recordings to delete everything. For those of you who don't want to take chances, there's a way to delete all voice data in one fell swoop. Head to amazon.com/MYX. Sign in and click your devices. Select Amazon Echo, then click Manage Voices Recordings, and get rid of that. Get rid of that. It just that's one of those things that's like, what the huh? So that's just kind of an interesting story. The next one, did you know, Kevin, did you know that it is illegal to hack your own car's computer? I bet you our listeners didn't know that.
Do tell, do tell.
So I was reading an article by Kyle Wine, so I apologize if I said that wrong in the end. There's the
from Wired.com.
Wired.com, thank you. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, hey, second story with them in it, says that from the Copyright Office for tinkerers to modify and repair their own cars, you have to ask permission from the manufacturer to modify your own cars. Now, this is a Digital Millennium Copyright Act, is a copyright law that governs very imperfectly what the public can do with creative content like music, movies, and software, all these other kind of things. So what does the copyright have to do with cars? Quite a lot, actually. Modern cars aren't merely mechanical creatures. There's more to them than engines and gearboxes. They house incredibly complex, high-functioning computers, a labyrinth network of sensors and wires and software that is constantly measuring and communicating and making adjustments to the engine, drivetrain, and suspension. A single car contains as many as 50 different ECUs, a computer unit that governs functions like acceleration and braking. You can buy a car, but you don't own the software in its computer. That's proprietary. It's copyrighted, and it belongs to the manufacturers. But if you're tech savvy and code literate, it's possible to crawl into the ECU and take control of it, to twist the programming into new shapes and make the engine perform to a set of parameters not authorized by the manufacturer, to make the car faster or more fuel efficient or more powerful. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah,
I mean, didn't know that.
In this age of Fast and Furious and modding cars and putting chips in them, and people with diesel trucks trying to get more power output so they can pull bigger loads and things like that.
Right.
Apparently, you're not supposed to be doing that.
Right. Manufacturers frown on the practice, of course. It will void your warranty. But not everyone can resist the urge to reverse engineer code and make a few changes. I love these guys, right?
I mean, who wouldn't want to bump up your fuel efficiency just by simply tweaking a couple lines of code, if that's all it would take?
Yeah, what I don't like about it is, like, this weird kind of like, well, you can't do it. It's like, oh, don't tell me what I can't do. That makes me want to
Right.
do it
It
10
makes
times
you want to
more.
do it even more.
I know. Say that, yeah, sure, in some weird way or whatever. Or, I don't know. Anyways, this is a great story for people who are into cars and tinkering with automotives. I like that sort of thing, and I'd like to think of the idea of being able to do that, kind of more. But I've been doing these Did You Know segments a little bit, and this is my Did You Know
Yeah.
that
It's a
maybe
good
you
one.
would not have known.
You almost started off there talking about a Transformers commercial there.
I
With
know.
the more than meets the eye kind of I was like, what? What kind of thing is this?
It's more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Man, now I want to watch those cartoons.
I know, who doesn't?
Darn it, Kevin.
Well, they pulled them off Netflix. In case you didn't know, people, if you really like Transformers Generation 1 from the 80s, I believe Netflix pulled them off in
What?
January. I know.
That's not cool.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, no, seriously.
That's
I
some
mean, we'd
Wendy's
have to double
drama.
check again, but
Okay.
honestly, that was
Well,
on their list of this is what's getting pulled out this month.
that's not cool, guys. Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Okay, so I am for now done with my stories. Kevin?
Oh, I want you to talk about the seniors playing Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, this is hilarious. All right. So for people in the chat room, people who are listening to this later. Oh, by the way, Daryl, I got you got your email, and I was going to respond to you, and I apologize, I haven't done that yet. So it's hilarious. We'll talk music, I promise. You're going to like this though. If you want to watch seniors, so senior citizens, that's what that means, play Grand Theft Auto for the first time, it is hilarious. It is the good times. We try to bring some hope and laughter into people's lives with this show. At least from my perspective, we do, and I know Kevin, you would echo that. And this is one of those things where you just got to check it out. Sometimes me and the wife we do a YouTube marathon where we just do some crazy searches and watch some funny videos. This is worth watching. Okay,
Right.
this
It's one
is
of the best
worth.
reasons to have a Google Chromecast.
Yeah, yeah,
Just sit there and queue all that stuff up and watch it right there. Oh, it's some funny stuff.
yeah. Well, speaking of the Chromecast, let's talk about its competitors.
Yeah, so recently I just found that Walmart is going to start selling, or probably already is selling, a $25 Chromecast competitor called the Voodoo Stick. Now, we're not talking like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, French Quarter kind of voodoo. We're talking VUDU stick. So, The Verge has
That's
an
hilarious.
yeah, talking about an article, and they kind of show off what it is. Now, for those people that are unfamiliar with what Vudu is, it's a movie streaming service that's only available through Walmart that allows you to, basically, if you own a physical DVD or Blu-ray, I believe you can get access for a certain price to view the digital streaming version of it. Now, the differences with this Vudu, what's called the Voodoo Spark. That's what it's actually called. So it's not the Voodoo Stick, it's the Voodoo Spark. My apologies. Basically, what you get with this is you get to stream your Voodoo videos. You don't get access to Netflix. You don't get access to Amazon Prime or Hulu or HBO Go. It's no apps whatsoever, actually. So all the Voodoo Spark can do is play streaming videos from Voodoo, which, like I mentioned, the Walmart-owned site that rents TV shows and movies. It also comes with a traditional remote. Nevertheless, with Walmart's considerable muscle behind it, the Voodoo Spark could end up finding its way into a number of homes across the country. And since the device only serves as a portal for customers to spend money renting videos from Voodoo, Walmart likely does not care if it loses money selling the sticks.
This is an interesting one because we want to say that there's like competition in the entertainment business as far as how we consume this content. There's this weird place that we're getting to where, I mean, even we were talking about this last week, where people can consume content from all sorts of places, right? Like that movies for free, by the way, that movies that are in the theaters or have been released or whatever. There's this weird, it's like resistance from the providers to get us the content we want. I mean, like, I think that most people will pay for this stuff, but it just feels like everything that's exclusive or whatever, like that idea, that model, that mindset is causing them to lose I would say a lot of money, which I've always felt that if, like reruns, for example, people who let's say 5 or 6 years ago, when they actually still like when you still watch TV and you still saw commercials and there was reruns on, you would catch those reruns and watch that show, right? And that means that more people would watch the show. So what's interesting to me is a lot of these streaming sticks and stuff like that, there's no pressure. There's no like everybody wants you to like pay for this other thing or this like this new thing or whatever the case is. And I would say that the frustration lies in even with this video stick that you can only watch things that you pay for. It's not like a gateway to like a subscription service. It could potentially be that in the future, but it's not that now, you know? And I don't see a lot of people really enjoying the voodoo stick right this second. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
but unfortunately, I think it's going to cater to. I mean, and I hate to, generalize and categorize people, but until that Walmart crowd that just, they go back there and they see something. Oh, it's only $25 versus 30 or 35. I'm going to get this because it's cheaper and it's at Walmart. The people that just sadly don't know better that need to listen to the show so that they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, I hate that Walmart's doing this because people are going to get this and be like, well, where's Netflix? Where's this? Where's that? And hopefully they take
That
it
is.
back instead of thinking, well, it's only 25. Just, you know, I'll just deal with the loss. Take it back. Let them know this kind of stuff, these kind of devices is not acceptable because it doesn't do anything. For $5, $10 more, get something that can actually do something.
Right, exactly. Exactly. The other thing is if you guys in the chat room could do me a favor, or the people listening to the show later, and hit us up on Twitter. I'm looking for a way because Vudu currently, if you bring in your old DVDs and your old Blu-rays, like I say old, but they're not really old. I mean, it's what like a couple of years or whatever. But if you bring them in, they charge you $5 and they'll give you the digital version, right? So, is there a way that I don't have to pay $5 to convert my videos and stuff? I'd like to see that.
I don't know. I would like to know as well because I would like to start getting things
I would like to start.
legitimately backed up.
Yeah,
And
legit. I want to legitimately do it, but I'm not going to pay like $1 million, to back up my own stuff. I
right.
bought it. It's mine. So, anyways, you're up, Kevin.
Yeah, so now we're kind of moving into more of opinion pieces of things that I just wanted to talk about because, I've got the Lumia 830 here and been working on a review for that. In fact, I got to send it back today. And then I seen something posted over the weekend from Android Central talking about wireless charging covers for the Galaxy Note 4. And it gets me to thinking, we all know there's a lot of debate about which wireless charging standard is going to, come out quote unquote on top and be the most successful and popular. You've got Qi, QI, but it's actually pronounced Qi, that is, popular with especially the Windows Phone community and with AT&T, but AT&T's kind of pushed that off to the side where it's like, no, you're not going to get that built into your device, but you can get it if you have certain phones with wireless charging covers, like the Lumia 830, for example. And then there's also the was it Duracell or Energizer, the Power Mat, stuff like that. That whole technology is available. But just how important is wireless wireless charging to the majority of people? Personally, I have no problem just plugging in a charger and to an outlet and charging my device. But what is it, JJ, what are your thoughts? And, people in the chat room, I'd really love to know your thoughts as well with wireless charging. And does it really matter to you if it helps save a few dollars on the price of a device, but at least having the option to get the charging plate?
So here's what's interesting is that Nokia, the old Nokia, not Microsoft Nokia, fought for Q as the standard. A lot of the okay. So as the tech informist, it is our job to inform you, people. So I'm informing you now. All right. Right now, the IEEE, which sets standards for programming languages and standards for communications in business, finance, communications across the world, not just in the United States, but all over the world, the globe. They set the standards, and then those standards kind of have to be upheld by companies and individuals and things of that nature when making products and things of that nature. So the other side of this is you have Android, Google, and a bunch of others with wireless charging standards. So you've got QI, and then you've got the other wireless standards. For the longest time, I didn't even know that there wasn't a standard. I thought it was just wireless charging. I'm sure, Kevin, that you could relate to that. Like, I didn't even know that there was a couple of different versions of wireless charging that people were fighting about, right, to make the one wireless charged, right? So, in having said that, did you know that the Nexus phone that you have uses a different standard than Nokia's wireless charging?
Well, it works with my current the Nokia
But it's a different
wireless charger I've
standard.
got.
It's a different standard, and it doesn't work properly. Did you know that?
Well, it works.
I love
Works just
that.
like my
All
Nexus
right.
4. Works
So
just like the
so so
920.
so the, so the conversation first needs to be which standard do we go with going forward, and then the conversation is absolutely. All right. So what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to take my phone, set it down on a wireless charger, because that version, that world is amazing, because when you don't have to plug in, it's gorgeous. So I've got these older phones behind me that I'm going to have an awesome, a display behind me one day, and a lot of the
Museum of Antique Phones.
a lot of problems with a lot of problems with older phones that many of you know, but many of you don't care about because you usually get rid of them. But if you're using an older phone or a hand-me-down phone, the plug-in to charge it and stuff gets a little loose, and then it becomes, even on tablets, say like Kindles and Samsungs and all this other kind of stuff, you needed to charge it, and it becomes really difficult to charge. So
Yeah. Well, the
wireless
charging
charging,
ports go loose, yeah.
wireless charging would be gorgeous, wouldn't it? Right? I mean, that would just be amazing. I don't know anyone who wouldn't want wireless charging moving forward. The only downside to wireless charging is design. The HTC One does not have wireless charging because it is the metallic design, and you can't, unfortunately, go through metal like that yet to charge the device.
That's true.
So
And
I would say if you're willing to set aside the design for the functionality of wireless charging, it's a whole new world. Key the Aladdin music. I'm serious.
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
it is amazing.
the biggest drawback to me with wireless charging is the length of time it takes to charge versus a traditional wired charging.
Right.
Now, when I was at CS, I did get to see, I cannot remember the name of the company off the top of my head because I've seen so many things out there, but at the Showstoppers evening event on Tuesday evening, I did get to see one wireless charging technology where if you put a phone on this big plate and then they had it like hooked up to like a computer screen, and you could see, whenever the phone was active, it had various different cells that could charge multiple things at one time on this big platform slash charging plate, and it knew to light up these depending on which way that the phone was laid on the device. But if you put like a coin or something on in a different area, those charging, I guess you would say little ports, would show up as red on the display that it recognize I'm not supposed to charge whatever's laying here because it's not conducive to what the plate is for. So something like that where it's pretty good size, you don't have to worry about it just falling off. I think you could charge multiple things at one time, and if it's Qi charging, which seems to be the most popular version across smartphones, then I think it would be good. If we could just bump that speed up just a little bit.
So I just found this out. It is Qi wireless charging on the Nexus 6. That's why it works.
All
Yep, that's why it works.
right. So
That's why it works.
moving on
Moving on. So we all
now.
agree that wireless charging is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. I just wish it was a little faster. But anyway, we did recently, this most recent episode, episode 23, we covered, kind of did a little recap of the Windows 10 event with Richard Hay from Windows Observer and the Observe Tech podcast. Thank you, Richard, for joining us. And we talked about the latest Windows 10 tech preview, which came out on Friday as well. Most of us hadn't had a chance to download and install it, but since then, JJ's had installed it on his Sony Vaio. I've installed it on a laptop, but I tried to put it on my Surface Pro 3 because, per the demonstration, Continuum is available now in this latest build. So I wanted to put it on my Surface Pro 3 and see how everything
Right.
worked. Needless to say that once I got it installed, I was back reinstalling Windows 8.1 on my Surface Pro 3 just because of the sluggishness of the performance. Now, I did all the updates that everybody has recommended after you install the latest preview. There was a couple updates, and all my firmware was up to date. I made sure to check one last time for updates before even installing Windows 10 on there. And it just didn't seem to work too well on Surface Pro 3. The Continuum portion did work because I made sure, detach the type cover, and it gave me, hey, switch to tablet mode, click the button, yes, and now you're using tablet, and with the full-fledged start menu as Windows 8.1 users are typically, most familiar with. Plug it back in, hey, switch it back to, desktop/computer mode, and it worked. So, but just the other experiences on it just were not up to speed where I felt comfortable using it as, a daily driver, and I use my Surface Pro 3 as a daily driver now. Now, Robert Sherbert, also the Cheeky Taurus on Twitter, he also, I noticed he was going to try to put it on his Surface Pro 3
Mm-hmm.
yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I wished him luck because I kind of
Right.
touched a little bit on what my experience was, and then I caught up with him a couple hours later. I'm like, so how'd it go? He's like, I'm installing 8.1 back on it again. So
Yeah. Well,
he had the same
yeah.
experience I did.
Yeah. So I have some questions for you. What was it like for now? None of this stuff is final, and we know
Right.
that we have lost some listeners who are like Chromebook, Android, all of that stuff. At this point, listeners, just hang on with us, man. You need to know what's happening on the other side of the fence, right? You need to know what's going on. If you're listening to this show, trust me, you guys want to know what's going on. So, Kevin, I have a question for you. When you went to switch from the desktop mode, right, with the start screen, essentially the new start menu, because we shouldn't call it the start screen anymore because it doesn't take up the full screen right away.
Right.
It just takes up the start menu, right? So when you tapped on the start menu, did you what was the experience like when you made the start menu and to take full screen mode? What was that like?
I mean, it was very similar to what you see when you hit the expand start menu. That's essentially
Okay.
what it did. It just was like auto tapping that button, and that was the only version you would see.
All right. All right. So went to when you went to the bigger screen, did you miss the background of because one of the things that I actually like about Windows 8, which trust me, no one likes Windows 8 besides a few of us.
I
Uh,
like 8.1. I like it a lot.
I mean 8.1, yeah, yeah. So one of the cool, neat little things when you're using it in tablet mode is there's the UI background behind the tiles, and it when you scroll in panorama mode, you scroll across the screen, there's little things in the background that move around. Well, those
Right.
things aren't there right now. I don't really see them being there in the future because like no one uses that.
Right.
So
No, basically, whenever you did that, I was getting a solid background. Now, again, I only kept it on there for an hour, hour and a half, and I'm like,
yeah,
no, this isn't working.
right. So I would think me personally, I would miss that a little bit. But that's just like a UI thing. Like that's
Yeah,
very
that's something that'll come. I mean, I completely understand. We're using very early beta builds, and this was the first time that they put that out with Continuum, and where people could really where it made sense to try it on your Surface Pro. So, maybe in another build or two,
hmm
I'll give it another whirl once some more things are ironed out. But
One
just
more one more thing on this story is Cortana on a PC. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of useful features that will come from this.
yeah, I mean, like right now, that experience is still kind of limited, but just being able to say, "Hey, Cortana," and it actually responds and
Right.
waits for your thing, waits for your command. Is
Now, a lot of Google users know, OK Google from the browser, right?
Mhm.
You can do that in a browser. You can do that kind of stuff. But the ability for those kind of search and stuff like that, man, that's really cool. That's exciting.
Mhm.
It puts it on par, right?
Yep.
So what's really cool about this is if you are in the Google ecosystem too, you kind of know what you like, and you're seeing Microsoft trying to do those things, right? So that with Cortana and stuff like that, the same way that Google Now works, and they're really trying to make that nice. That's nice right now. Okay, Google, that's great.
Mhm.
That works really really well. So Kevin, you're up with your next story.
All right, so the last thing I do want to touch on before we move into app picks is Google is looking to possibly provide their own mobile phone service using either Sprint or T-Mobile networks. So Google might be looking to, do their own, as you would call MVNO, kind of like a Cricket or kind of, not necessarily a prepaid, but just their own phone service. And I've heard some really interesting discussion lately on other shows, talking about this situation and scenario. And it makes you wonder because Google is, trying to roll out their Google Fiber. It's available in just a few different cities, Kansas City and Austin, Texas, and one other that I cannot think of off the top of my head at the moment. But it's interesting to see Google looking to do this, and it makes you wonder, with Amazon getting into their own phone, with the Fire Phone, it's not really the phone service because it's used on AT&T as an exclusive. But it just I'm curious to see what people's response will be when and if Google does really continue on and actually do this, and why they would use Sprint or T-Mobile. I mean, obviously, I guess they're the ones that are looking for the money and looking for the Google backing, to partner up with. But I guess we'll see.
Is my mic on?
Your mic is on because I
All
just
right,
heard it.
good. Yeah, all right, good. So I want to say this. There was a Verizon story recently. I'm not going to dig too deep, and the issue was this idea of cookies, right? Like tracking every single thing a user of a mobile device on Verizon. Verizon's very good to us on this show, and they send a lot of good stuff to us, and we appreciate that. But man, this is really not good. So Verizon's tracking cookies on your mobile, like people's mobile devices. That's so personal, right? And it tracks where you were, when you were there, for how long, who you were there with, uh, you know, a lot of the times what you searched for while you were there. If you like that kind of intrusion in your life, I mean, rock on. But if you don't, man, that's really crappy. So just think about how recently Eric Schmidt from Google at the World Economic Forum. No, is that what? No, I don't know. It's they met in a rich place, bunch of rich people talking about that sort of stuff. So I wasn't there, so if that tells you anything. And one of the things that they talked about was this idea of privacy completely going away and the internet changing and all this other kind of stuff. I don't think that for the majority of people who like privacy, insofar as none of us are perfect and we don't want our imperfections shown to everyone all the time. Especially, we don't want it shown 10 years later or 5 years later when maybe our attitudes have changed on a subject. So I would argue that Google having their own wireless service is one of the scariest things that could ever happen ever from a privacy standpoint. Now, I'm a fan of Android and their products and Google and what they do, and it's a lot of fun and all this other kind of stuff. But when it comes down to when it comes down to what I believe normal people would consider a little bit of an overreach, man, you are the product for Google. You have to understand that. If you're cool with that, rock on. If you're not, this idea of Google having their own wireless service from a pricing perspective, I'm sure that they could get it for next to nothing as long as you're okay with them knowing literally everything about you. They having an always-on microphone. We talked about a story earlier with Amazon Echo. And the ability to record your voice interactions with this thing. I mean, I'm thinking, Google's going to have servers dedicated to recording everything you say or everything you say digitally, right? Like IM or direct message, whatever. So this freaks me out. I would never use it. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I don't think I would sign up for their service either. I mean, I'm interested in Google Fiber solely because of the fact of the speeds and for what it is that we do and getting into video editing and having to upload large video files. That's what I'd be into that for. That's really about it.
I love this chat room, man. People are engaged. It's great.
Oh no, I love it.
Love it. It's great. So yeah, that was what. So Tech Nils was saying the reason for Surface not getting 10 could be no continuum support in Windows 10.
In
That's
mobile Windows 10.
Yeah, mobile Windows 10, the variant. That's interesting because I think there was another article about how. Do you remember the Motorola Atrix when you could plug it into the dock and then have it like in laptop mode?
Yes.
I'm thinking there's a lot of people who would get a lot of benefit from being able to run like the full version of Windows if the phone version was docked in some sort of way, right?
Yeah.
That would be interesting, but I don't know. That could change in the future, but with Surface just not having the numbers as far as not having the amount of people using a Surface or a Windows RT device, man, that's tough. And we're talking about the Surface RT. We're not talking about the Surface Pro.
The Pro line.
Yeah.
It's a big difference and completely different experience.
Surface Pro 3 is an amazing device. You're using it right now. It's gorgeous. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and hop into our application picks.
App picks. So JJ, tell us a little bit about what you've got going on here and why I might want to install this.
Oh gosh. So Sarah, my wife, I look over at her. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? We're hanging out. What are you doing? Because one thing, if you live in a household where you have the same ringtones and sounds on your mobile devices, is when she would get a Facebook message. I thought it was from you, or from somebody else, and because we talk constantly, but
Right.
I hear it go off, and I'm like, no one contacted me. What's going on? And then Sarah's like, oh, that's me. And I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah. Change your tone.
I know. Change your tone. I've already had Kevin do that once for me, which thank you, by the way. So Trivia Crack. Now, Trivia Crack, which is popular on Android and iOS, is also on Windows Phone. They don't advertise it, but it is. And it's really fun. It's a lot of fun. It's actually really, really cool. And I totally smashed everyone, even Sarah. I'm a sore winner and I'm a sore loser. So, take that for what it's worth, everybody. But Trivia Crack is literally the reason why it's called crack. The implication in the name is because it's addicting. It's a lot of fun. You can play multiple people at the same time. It's a lot like Quiz Up, which Android has, which Kevin likes a lot because he has Android. Right. The Nexus 6, but it's really neat, man, and it's free. I like it.
Yeah. Now, do you have any idea if Windows Phone people can play with Android users, or is it just, you can only play
I have an
with
answer for that,
people?
Kevin. Yes. There was two Android. Let's see. There was two Android people and a Windows Phone person playing at the same time. So
Okay,
yes.
good. Well, I just installed it on my Android, and we'll try it. And I'll also install it on my 1520 when I'm using that as well, which I did reformat last night. Did factory reset, getting it ready. Looking forward to using it again.
Cool. I know they're not sponsors, but man, what was the name of this screen protector? I think it's Incipio or something. I have dropped my phone so many times, and this screen protector has done just an amazing job. I'm gonna get another one of these, but it's oh no, it's not Incipio. It's Krusell. I just wanted to throw that out there for my 1520. It's really really nice.
Nice,
Anyways,
nice.
so that is our application picks. That
That's
is our news. That is our everything. Kevin, what else do we
yes.
have?
So that's pretty much it. We will be back on Wednesday. And for people that always want to know when our next show and who we might have coming up as guests,
Yes.
again, like I mentioned earlier, go to thetechinformist.com/live and keep up with all the information. We're more heavily using Twitter, so always make sure to follow us on Twitter. We're on Facebook, Google Plus as well, Instagram, and would like to thank everybody, Vernon, Technils, and JJ. I see you're in the chat room as well, and there's another viewer in there. Next time, sign in, participate in the chat. As you can see,
Yeah.
it's pretty hopping today. So with just the free version, I think we can have up to 10 people communicating at one time. So right now, it looks like the numbers are good for that. But would always like to have more, and maybe then we'll start paying for that. So, if anybody would like to submit any topics for upcoming episodes or guest
Yep.
suggestions that people
Exactly.
that you'd like to hear us talk with, such as Richard Hay and Mary Jo Foley and everybody, please email them to contact@thetechinformist.com. And that does it for another episode of the Tech Informist. So, from JJ, from myself, from everybody here at the Tech Informist, consider yourself informed. We are out.